we were pissing neon green every day.
The big ball of heat in the sky was too much.
I thought there was a bear.
Reality goes, yeah, fresco. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, everybody. What's up, everybody?
Welcome to
StouryTime.
StouryTime.
Hey everybody, welcome to Storytime with John and Friends. I'm your host, John. Today's guest recently released a new self-titled album with his new band, Suburban Eyes, on August 30th via Spartan Records. You may recognize him from his previous bands, Christie Front Drive and Antarctica. Please welcome my new friend, Eric Richter. Eric, thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is a pleasure.
Absolutely. Why don't you go ahead and tell the people a little about yourself?
Well, that's really hard to do. I'm a human being. I play music. I've been playing since, I was like 9 years old, obsessively. I think ever since the first time I saw Kiss. I think my sister brought a Kiss record home when I was a child, and that kind of piqued my interest right away. I'm older, so like I remember the 70s. I have memories from the 70s. So yeah, and then I just kind of went on and I taught myself how to play guitar, and then I've played a bunch of music over the years.
Very cool. Most notably, I feel a lot of people will know you from Christie Front Drive. It's kind of, a staple in the emo music scene.
Yeah.
Very, very cool that I got you on here. I'm a big fan.
Thanks.
What is the biggest difference between then and now as far as like how you write music and everything works?
Well, definitely experience. That's huge. When Christie Front Drive, we were just out of high school, and I didn't have a lot of, I was listening to a lot of punk rock. I went through kind of a death metal phase when I was in junior high. So I didn't have a huge pool of, inspiration at that time, which, so we were doing, at that time I was listening to a lot of like Buffalo Tom and Superchunk, and I was really into the Berkeley scene. I loved Operation Ivy, and I was really into Green Day, like when like 39 Smooth came out. That was like right down my alley in high school. I was Sam I Am, Green Day, Jawbreaker, all those bands were like right where I was at. But so that was what I was drawing from with Christie Front Drive. Or now, like, I'm 50 years old now, and I've listened to a lot of music over the years and a lot of different styles. And, it definitely colors what you're doing. No doubt.
Absolutely. Did you know early on that that's what you wanted to do as far as like being a touring musician and try and, do that for a career?
I wanted that more when I was a child. I would, listen. I went through a metal phase, and I would, listen to Live After Death, Iron Maiden, and pretend I was like in Iron Maiden in my room, and as a child, it was very attractive to me to be a touring musician, just like or just someone who made music, because I just always, music is just everything, since I was all my memories as a child usually are connected to some song, or I can remember driving around in the car with my mom and hearing like early, like with some Wings and like Phil Collins, and really I would resonate with those songs. Would really resonate me when I was a young child. But I kind of lost where I was going there. But yeah, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Did you know at an early age that that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I'll do that a lot. I sometimes veer off so hard I forgot where I do that a lot.
That's quite all right.
Yeah. So, but now that I'm older, it's not exactly what I want to do. Like once I toured, and it was, when I was young and carefree, it was great. Like you went everywhere, you met a lot of people, and playing music, it was the greatest. But now that I'm older, it's not as attractive to me anymore.
Right.
I'm kind of a suburban dad now, and I actually am rather enjoying it, to tell you the truth.
That's great. I am also a suburban dad, so I feel you on that.
I never thought it would happen. Like when I was young, I was kind of, I'm not going to have a family. I'm not going to have kids. I'm not going to do any of this. I'm just going to live in New York City and, live, this crazy lifestyle. But, as I got older, I started wanting some of the things that I remembered, or like especially once I got married and had kids, I wanted them to have a similar, upbringing than I did. I
Right.
wanted them to not living in the city would be very difficult with children. So that's why I
Okay.
kind of, yeah.
Are you from New York City? Or
No,
did you
I
relocate
grew
there?
up in Denver.
Okay.
And then when I was 20, 21, I moved to New York City and I was there for pretty much like 20 years. So
Wow.
I've spent more time in New York than I have in Colorado, but Colorado is where I grew up.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So the new record's great.
Oh,
Suburban
thanks.
Eyes. I do have it over there hanging
Oh,
on the wall
I
there.
didn't notice.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's kind of hard to tell with the
Yeah,
distance of the camera, but
sure,
yeah,
sure.
that is the vinyl. Big fan. So how did the band come about as far as the three of you guys getting together?
Well, from my perspective, I just got a text from Chris Simpson one day, saying, "Hey, John Anderson from Boys Life and we're just talking about maybe." It was kind of right around the time of the pandemic,
Mhm.
so a lot of people were looking for things to do, and his idea was to get a bunch of us together. I mean, originally it was like 5 people, which later kind of scaled down to the 3 of us,
Mhm.
because Chris ended up being really busy with Mountain Time, which obviously you can see all the stuff. He's putting out a bunch of stuff this week.
Mhm.
He's obviously been very busy with that record.
Yeah.
And also Kerry McDonald, who was in Christie Front Drive, was kind of in on the early part, but he kind of, I think, just musically wanted to do something different. He was kind of like, let's do something like Black Sabbath, Thin Lizzy, which I love, but it's not what it's not what we were, like at least Jeremy, John, and I were looking to do.
Okay.
So eventually it just kind of scaled down to the 3 of us, and once the 3 of us are together, we just started like writing songs like crazy. Obviously we're in 3 different states, so sending files and
Right.
demos and stuff like that.
Now, have you known them since the 90s when they were doing their thing? And very cool.
Of course, yeah. Jeremy Mineral we ran into just randomly at a show, and I remember it being Houston, but I've been told it's somewhere else in Texas. But we just played a random show with Mineral. We were like, this was one of our first tours, so a lot of people didn't know what to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
Christie Front Drive was a weird band because we were identified as kind of a punk band, and that's kind of the way things were released. But we didn't really sound like a lot of the punk bands at the time. A lot of time there was a lot of hardcore was really big at the time. Had like the Ebullition stuff, and
Yeah.
And we'd show up, and a lot of those bands would play these really short, intense sets, and then we'd like get up and like ding, 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 like, and it was awkward at first, but until we got a really good review in Ebullition, or the Heart Attack, I'm sorry, and yeah, then everything kind of changed for us, and people started showing up to the shows. But we met Mineral on that first trip, and they were one of the few bands that we saw like, oh, these guys, I like these guys. They're kind of like us,
Mm-hmm.
we every once in a while would play with a band and have an instant kinship with them. And that's where I met Jeremy. And also later, Jeremy, Chris Simpson and we toured because we did a Gloria Record Antarctica tour.
Okay.
Once.
Very
and
cool.
we spent which was a wild trip. There's a lot of stories from that one. But yeah, that's how. And John, I've known, we did, Boys Life and Christie Front Drive did a split. We used to tour all the time together.
Right.
I was actually in Boys Life van when it burned, the famous van burning. I was asleep in the van at the time. We had to jump out. And do you know about that story?
I do not. I'd actually love to hear that.
You should talk to the Boys Life guys too, because they have some
Okay.
wild stories. They were literally like criminals on the road.
I'll have to reach out.
Stealing gas and groceries, and their van burning down. They have a lot of great.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Wow. No, they admit it. I was there. I mean, I would watch them walk out of a store with a lasagna down their pants.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That is wild. So it's safe to say you guys have known each other for
a long time.
a very long time. Very cool. Now, did you ever, like, back in that time frame, did you ever foresee you guys, writing music together?
No, definitely not then, because when you're young, you don't think much about what's going to happen in the future. There was one point, God, I think it was after I moved to New York City, that there was some talk about Jeremy, Jim Adkins from Jimmy Eat World.
Yeah.
Me, and like there was talk at one point where there was interest, like, hey, maybe we should try to do something just for fun, and it never happened. But that was the closest that, with Jeremy.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, but no, I never thought we would play. No, who knew?
Nice.
I mean, looking back where we were back then, I mean, who could predict, the way things are now? It's
Right.
changed so much.
Absolutely. So the band name, does that kind of come from the idea of you are a suburban dad now? You're looking through Suburban Eyes. Is that
Well, it's
where is it from?
the Suburban Eyes is a song that Thelonious Monk made famous, and that was written by Ike Quebec. But so when we were coming up with band names, we went through like songs, we went through like all these songs, and like especially I like to go through a lot of like old standards and jazz because there's a lot of great titles. Because I'm really bad at naming bands. I hate it. I hate naming bands. And this band, it took a long time to name because everyone had different ideas. But that's the one we finally like, no, that's cool. We all like it. And I kind of liked the vibe of it. And plus, yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of jazz. I mean, I'm 90% of what I listen to anymore is jazz music.
Very cool. And yeah, most people do not realize that naming the band is the hardest part of the band.
It's
You
the
can
worst
get
part.
everybody together. You can write all the music. You can record everything and still not have a name. It is easily the hardest part of that of being in a band.
I really don't remember one time where it went smoothly and that someone didn't get mad during the conversation.
Yeah.
I finally said that is stupid. I'm not gonna be in a band named. In fact, I believe like the first name for Suburban Eyes was something like JJ Eck, which it was kind of like our initials.
Okay.
And I hated it.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so that was a whole process too. And that's when there were 5 of us, so it was even worse. Like when you have 5 people in a band, oh, forget it.
Yeah, I played in this band called The Traditional that we toured for some time, and we were having trouble naming the band when we first started. And I think the first name that we came up with was like Au revoir cliche. And we were like, 2 of them were like, that's okay. And like 2 of us were like, that's terrible. We hate it, but we'll go with it for now.
Yeah.
And then we told some friends and they were like, that's awful. So then we were like, all right, we have to change it. And we came up with The Traditional because we were sitting in my parents' basement at a practice and there was an empty Yingling box on the ground and it says Yingling, the traditional lager. So we were like, what about this? Oh, whatever, that works. So it's not a great name, but it worked,
We did the same thing at Christie Front Drive. Ron and I went to, there was this famous museum in Denver called the Forney Museum, and it's just old cars. And there was a poster on the wall, and they had all the names of these old car manufacturers, and Christie Front Drive was on the poster.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's after we had been fighting about it for like a month. And I remember kind of showing up to practice being like, we're called Christie Front Drive. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like I'm just like, and everyone's like, yeah, that's all right, actually. So, and we would name songs. The song Instant Romance, which is on the Boys Life split. We just needed a song name, and where we practiced in Ron's parents' basement, and they had all these weird boxes, and there was a champagne bottle and it said Instant Romance on it. And we're like, there it is. Like we would just pick out stuff and like,
yeah, that's great.
Then 4010 was his address, it was just random, whatever we saw.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is a storytelling podcast. I reached out to see if you wanted to come on and share some past tour stories. What do you got for me?
Wow, that's tough. Well, do you have you have to lead me off here. Like, what kind of tour story are you looking for?
Anything that you really want to share. Do you have? Okay, I got some questions here for you.
Sure.
That's
hard. Just going like, I was on the road for a long time, so there's a lot of things that come to mind. So
right, yeah, no, I understand. So what is your most memorable tour as far as like anything that crazy that may have happened?
It's between, that Gloria record tour was pretty intense because we were just out of control on that trip. There was a lot of like I remember there was a lot of alcohol and and a lot of good times, but really just being able to tour Europe a couple times was like by far the greatest experience because just the just driving around. Driving around Europe is insane. Like most people just, when you're a tourist, most people just fly into cities and take the local. Like when you're traveling, when you're on tour, you get to drive through all the little towns and all the little roadways. You see like all the things that that most people don't see, and it's great. It was amazing, and every night was like a huge party. And I think they really were trying to see how much beer we could drink before like we literally were dead. It was insanity. I actually ended up sick after that trip because I got a blood clot in my leg because I was my blood had congealed so much on that trip.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but the cities, you'd see these just amazing places. We'd play in Bavaria, and at one point we actually played in, there was like these weird rows of houses and they all looked identical. It was in Germany. Someone will probably know the city. There's just rows of houses and they all looked exactly the same. And we played at the one at the end. All the rest of them were abandoned. And supposedly there were tunnels underneath all of the buildings, but it was a Nazi hospital at one point.
Oh, wow.
Like, which was weird. It's like you were like, whoa, this is strange. We actually at one point they had us sleep and play in a bunker. We played like in this weird bunker in some town in Germany.
That's crazy.
It was just like thick in the pitch black. It was like in the basement. It was insanity. It was a scary night actually. But
So when you said that you guys were driving through there, did you have a driver for you, or were you guys just white knuckling it yourselves?
I was in a band at the time called the 101, and we released an album on a label in Germany called Riptide. They kind of got a hold of me and said, "Yeah, we'd love to do that, and maybe we can turn this into a European tour." I was like, "Yes, of course, let's do this." So they kind of set it up. This really nice guy, Niels, he ran a tour agency called Selma, I believe. He would bring a lot of American bands over and just you do a lot of Germany, and then you'd also like, a show in France, and you go over to the UK for a little bit. Usually like a month, like shows every night. We did 2 of those, and it was the greatest time.
That's awesome. What was your favorite country or city?
Visually Prague. It was never bombed. So they still have all the original churches and buildings. There's this famous church that like these skeletons come out and dance around at certain hours, and it's a very just beautiful place, unbelievable. That was just awe-inspiring how beautiful that city was.
Very cool.
And they love Americans there. And at the time, I really liked Pilsner Urquell. So like it was just on tap everywhere too. So I was like,
So you said they like Americans there. Were people in like the other countries kind of standoffish towards the Americans? Because I know that a lot of people today that I've interviewed, they will say like, Americans aren't loved in a lot of countries just because of, we come off rude or anything like that, so.
It's not so much there's a lot of, and I did see that. It depended, obviously the kids who were like bringing us over and like because they loved, like we would play these big shows. The kids over there really followed American emo music. And but at the same time, if you met people outside of those groups, you would see a little disdain for like, people. I would be at a bar ordering and someone would go, "Oh, you're American." This actually happened in one bar, and I go, "Yeah, I'm American." He goes, "I fucking hate Americans." And I was like, okay. And then he made some horrible slanderous, like comment about how much he liked American girls, but in a very gross way. And I was like, all right, like he was wearing all white, but we would, and there would be some people that would be, the fact that we only speak English pisses people off too, because you go over and like there was times some kids would be like, "Why are we speaking English to this? Like, why don't they learn German?" And there was a little contention with that. I noticed, but for the most part, everyone was really cool. But in deep parts of Germany, I would notice that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that guy too in the white also ended the conversation by saying, "I wish we would have won the war."
Oh wow.
Yeah. I was like, oh man.
Oh
like,
wow.
Check, please. Yeah.
So and I just want to touch on too. So you said there was a good turnout on that tour though, on those tours.
Oh, amazing. I mean, like for I'm used to touring America where like they're like you show up and they're like, here's 5 drink tickets, get the fuck off the stage, like
Yeah.
5, don't stay, like you're kind of treated. Some places are nicer than others, of course, but for the most part, it's like, and like Germany, like they treated us like rock star. I was signing autographs. I was like, it was insanity. Like it was they really love, especially like the punk kids of the American culture and like, especially the 90s, and like they hold it pretty dear. So they were really just couldn't be kinder. It was wonderful. Everywhere we went, we were cooked these amazing meals. As much alcohol as you could drink wasn't good for me at the time. It kind of, I had to stop drinking because of touring, really. It was too much. But yeah, I mean, it was just a lovely experience. And a lot of the times we'd play the show, and then after the show, it would turn into a huge dance party. And so you were just up all night, like dancing, and like it was a blast.
Was it like raves?
Well, a lot of times they would play like at the times it's whatever alternative shit. I remember like dancing to The Killers.
Okay.
Mr. Brightside. I remember
Yeah.
but the guy also was playing like Bad Religion and shit. So I was like, holy shit, it was fun. So
Yeah.
I was
What
like,
year
I know
was
this
this?
song. 2006.
Okay. So because I was thinking more, I was like in my head, I was thinking it was like the 90s, and I was like, it's crazy. It's crazy that they knew so much or whatever with, the beginning of the internet, but that makes more sense.
Sure. Yeah, no. And that's why it was a good time to go, because I think it was like the first wave of like, hey, we just discovered all these bands,
Yeah, it was like the boom.
Yeah, Boys Life and Mineral and Sunny Day Real Estate, and yeah.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Do you have anything that sticks out in your mind as far as like the funniest moment that's happened on a tour?
The funniest moment.
Like, did you guys do any pranks or anything with the other bands?
I was never
Stuff like
into
that?
pranks. I don't like to be pranked, so I'm not a prank. You know what? Here's a good story. I don't know if it is kind of funny actually, but it's a good one. We so during one of the trips we went on this trip with Jimmy Eat World. This is during the Christie Front Drive days. We were driving up to Minneapolis, and we went. I forgot where we went on that trip. I remember being in Minneapolis with them, and I think that's where we were going. But we stopped. We kind of like drove really late because it was a long drive, so we kind of drove late and ended up stopping. I'm pretty sure we were in Wyoming, and we saw there was a lake, kind of a park. There was a park and a lake, and I think it probably was part of government land. I'm not sure, but we stopped there, and we got out. We made a fire, and we started. At that time, I was smoking a lot of weed, so like we were doing that, and all of a sudden, this car pulls up with just its bright lights, like and right on us. We didn't know anyone was around us. We couldn't see anyone, which was kind of freaky because we were like kind of in this like nature preserve area, and it pulls back out and disappears. So we kind of stupidly just went back to what we were doing, and the next you knew like 10 police jeeps pull up and just surround both of our vans. And the guy gets out, and it was just like out of like Smokey and the Bandit. The guy was like kind of like there's the big honcho cop, and he's kind of yelling at us like, I heard you guys are smoking doobies over here, like, and the one thing I do remember, which was funny, Rick from Jimmy Eat World, they wrote us some tickets, some ordinance, like we were too loud, and he handed it to Rick. And I swear to God, Rick just crumpled it up and threw it on the ground. And I was like, no, don't. And I don't know why. I don't know if he didn't notice it, but I remember I'm like, oh, we're screwed. And I remember I had left my bag of weed under the front of the van, and he was going right through it. He somehow didn't see it. So, but the next thing that happened is we all got in our vans, and they escorted us out of town. They're like, get out of town. We don't want you here. And we had to like keep driving. But that was an interesting night.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I had something kind of similar to that happen to us once, but it was in a Walmart parking lot.
Oh no, that sounds worse already.
They were like, what are you doing? We're like, we're going to sleep. And they were like, you need to leave. And then they escorted us as well until we crossed that line for them,
Sure. Yeah.
But
Get out.
Yeah.
And don't come back.
That's wild.
I was just happy we didn't get like taken because I thought when he threw the ticket, I was like, oh no, we're done. Like we're going in, they're gonna take us in. But I don't think they also wanted to deal with it because there was a lot of us, so it would have been a long night for them, I think. Sometimes they're like, just leave so I can go back to whatever I'm doing.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any near-death experiences?
No, I was the closest. I mean, because I did that European tour, I was drinking so much and we were drinking on the plane and I came home and I had a DVT, which is a blood clot in my my main artery, and it broke off and went to my lungs.
Okay.
And that almost killed me twice, actually.
What
It happened because it came back.
What's the procedure that they would
You
have
get
to
on
do for
blood
that?
thinners. So what they
Okay.
do is they put you on blood thinners. They at first it's like something called Lovenox that you give yourself shots in the stomach, and then I take pills every night because every time I get off of the pills, it comes back. So I just have to I have to be on blood thinners for the rest of my life.
That's wild.
But that was from the amount of drinking. I was basically, I mean, that, like I said before, I had touring made me have to quit drinking because I just couldn't do it. Because when you're on tour, it's just like every night's Friday night, every night's Friday night, every night's Friday night. You're like partying every night, especially those European tours. You're like every night drinking. And when I would get home, I'd want to do the same thing, because I was became habit. And yeah, I just kept drinking. I had to stop because I was killing myself. But it's a hard lifestyle, and that's what touring is. It could bring on a lot of weird parts of your personality, and you meet a lot of interesting people that can lead you the wrong way, if you're not watching what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So do you have you ever had like any good or weird or bad fan interactions? Is there anything that comes to mind with that?
Only good. I don't think I've had any bad. The good thing about we're not. None of the bands I've been have been very big, so we've had a very small group of people, which maybe that lends to having a nicer. But everyone is that I've talked to, or because I try to talk to everyone, especially if they're posting online and they say something nice. I try to answer. But everyone's really nice, and I'm just really appreciative of all the kind things people say. But I can't think of anything odd. There might have been one girl that was following us around in the Midwest that someone warned us about, but I don't know if they were just messing with us or not. I don't know. But there's always stories. Fact that especially when you're young, the Christie Front Drive days were crazy because we were all so young and just stupid, and there was a lot of just ridiculous conversations about other bands, and you'd meet up with people and there was a lot of misinformation going on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of rumors and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah. What is so if there's anything that you ever wish that the fans knew or understood about touring, is there anything that you wish they knew?
No, I don't. It's not, it's definitely nice when people show up, but you know what? I can't say that, I don't go to shows anymore. So I'm not, I can't say anything at somebody, but it's nice, but it's difficult, but there's not really anything they need to know. You just kind of hope that when you show up, they have a good time when you play, you just want there to be for me, I've never, there was times that I wanted, why can't I live off of this? And, why my bands never seem to do well to live off of, but at the same time, I'm kind of comfortable where I'm at,
Right
now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it kind of worked out the way. Now that I look back, I'm not especially with the amount of drinking I was doing. If I would have stayed on tour, I think I would have died eventually, almost definitely, because I was in the hospital. My pancreas was like, nope.
Yeah.
Stop. Yeah. So I don't think I could have handled it, because you're just no maturity at that age. And especially when people are telling you, there's a point when people are telling you how great you are and how, you get a lot of praise, and it messes with your head a little bit. And you realize you can lose yourself a little bit, and kind of especially when you're 21 years old,
Yeah.
and then when you look back, you're like, oh God, I was such a asshole at that time period, but I was so full of myself, like, but I don't know how people who have real celebrity, I don't know how they deal with that.
I think a lot of them have issues with substances, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's, you hear it time and time again. Look, I mean, Taylor Hawkins and, all these musicians out there that, they suffer from addiction or whatever. And yeah, you're not wrong when it's crazy too, because like when you are on the road, like a lot of people don't realize like, oh yeah, there's tons to do in your town, but you don't know what to do. So
yeah,
let's go grab a beer, like that's definitely.
Yeah, no. And in Europe, it was worse because their shows are really fucking late. So you would show up at the whatever venue at 5 o'clock and they're like, well, you go on at 2 a.m. and you're like, fuck. And so you just drink all day.
Yeah.
Or we started like, we got a soccer ball and a Frisbee and started doing stuff like that. And we would try to like, if we were in a cool city, there was something to see, we would try to do some sightseeing. But most of the time you had to sit there at the club for hours, hours waiting. And that's a bitch. I hate that part. Like just waiting to play. When you have all day and you're just watching, and I'm sure there's a lot of bands I would have enjoyed, but sometimes you're just not in the mood to watch music when you're waiting to play. It's not, I would kind of be in a bad mood. It's like, I'm going to go sleep in the van or, I missed Modest Mouse. They actually opened up for us in Seattle. Well, there's like one of their first shows.
Wow.
And I didn't watch them. And Carrie was like, that fucking first band was amazing. And I was like, oh, I missed it. Then later I found out it was Modest Mouse. I was like, damn.
Yeah, that's wild.
But yeah. But it's hard. I mean, it's tough. Touring is hard. People don't need to know that, but it's not, it's not for everybody. It's a very weird way to live to me. I'm kind of found that I'm more of a recluse. I'm this kind of lifestyle I have now where I'm living up in Buffalo and I'm just, I'm here with my family and we're kind of living a quiet life.
I'm sorry, you said you live in Buffalo?
I live in Buffalo. Yeah.
So do I.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. I live in.
I'm in.
Where?
I'm on.
We'll take this out, but where?
I'm on right off of.
Okay, you know where it is?
Yeah,
I live off of.
No shit. Look
Are
at
you fucking
that.
kidding?
No. Yeah, I'm in. Yeah,
That's wild. Small.
Yeah,
world.
that's funny. I know. Well, my wife is from Medina, and that's why we tried to move back to Colorado at one point, and it was just a shit show there. Just so many people moved into Colorado because I was really going back there to like experience like that's at how I really had a nice childhood there, and I was hoping when I went back they would kind of still be there what I loved about it, and it was gone. So. And it's just so expensive. And we would visit here and we were looking at prices of houses and like, holy shit, it's so cheap here.
Okay.
So, I mean, we got our house for a song, like it was before everything started going up. So, I mean, our house in Colorado would be like a $600,000 house, like here it's like nothing. But yeah, so yeah, I actually really like because Buffalo reminds me of Denver in the 80s.
Okay.
Like it hasn't quite got built up yet. Maybe it's because of the weather, but I like it like this, like I like that there's it's not completely out of control, built up. And, where Denver is like, microbrewery, but a lot of places are like that, but the stadium and there's just nothing recognizable about what you loved about it,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow,
Buffalo seems like there's still a lot of the old places here. I see a lot of those there's like the Taylor down the street and, I love just seeing stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Still like one of the oldest football stadiums that's active as well.
Unfortunately, my sports years, the time when I got attached to a team was in Denver, so I'm a Broncos fan.
Fan, yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't like it was Denver. I mean, Buffalo is one of the only towns that I've seen where I've spent time where like it rivals the intensity of the fans because Denver fans are the same way. They're just insane. It's the whole town. If the Broncos somehow got bought and moved out of Denver, the place would fall apart. I think.
Yeah, yeah. So you probably like Von Miller though. He came from the Broncos. Right?
No, he was fun to watch. Yeah, now
he's in Buffalo.
I know he's at the end of his career though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's still. I know we're getting sidetracked here, but he's still got three sacks in 3 games. Just saying.
No, he's great. No, I really enjoyed. I mean, that Super Bowl against the Panthers was just. I've never seen a defensive player dominate a game like that in my life.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Absolutely.
That was
Oh,
the
wow.
time period during that. That I was back in Denver at that point, like when I was trying to move back. But that's weird. Yeah, that's funny. I every once in a while, like I sell records too. You probably see. Do you ever go to any of the record fairs or like the?
Occasionally, yeah, but not very often.
Yeah, I do that.
So I haven't been out and done much in the last year. I had a double spinal fusion last November,
Ooh.
and it was like 3 months after we had my daughter. So
Uh-huh.
it was like I haven't done a whole lot. I was out of commission for 10 months, and then when I did go back to work, that's basically I'd work and then come home to the baby. So
Oh yeah. Oh, that's rough.
yeah, I mean,
Spinal
it is what it is.
fusion, huh? Wow.
Yeah, I have a degenerative disc disease that I got from my dad.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
yeah,
Well,
it's great. It's great.
It sounds painful.
It's not anymore. That's why I
Good.
got the surgery.
Oh, good. I'm glad it worked.
So, but it was very painful. There was moments where it was like I don't know if I'll be able to walk again because at times I was having temporary paralysis
Uh-huh.
and stuff like that. But that's why we did the surgery. We've come a long way and we're doing a lot better. So
Oh, good. Because I always fear, because sometimes I fear you hear these people and they're like, I have these, these disc problems, and the doctors want to operate right away, but it's not really the thing to do, like they
yeah,
and then there's more screwed up. I'm really interested in this, like this guy who does kind of these, he talks about the mind body connection, where like sometimes if you're having back pain, and this is not the fusion thing, it sounds legit, but like he thinks some people are actually experiencing the pain because they're not dealing with something emotionally, and some people who've done it like have gotten rid of their back pain with it, like, so I don't know. I think I always find stuff like that interesting.
Yeah, no, we exhausted everything else and it was the only option.
Well, no, that sounds, if you need a fusion, I've never even I don't even heard of a fusion before. That sounds.
Basically they take your disc and they remove it, and then they put a piece of like metal and plastic in that like holds your spine apart where the disc was, and then your bone fuses to it, and that's why it's called a fusion.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Crazy recovery with that.
Yeah, it was rough. It was they did it in 2 surgeries 12 days apart.
Uh-huh.
My second surgery was on Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And then
nice.
so
On Thanksgiving. Huh?
On Thanksgiving Day, yeah. So it was just it was a rough recovery because they force you to walk before you leave to make sure that like your legs are working. But I ran into some other issues with some nerves that they hit, and I actually still don't have feeling in my leg.
Oh, really?
For like, I'd say compared to what it was, I had 0 feeling in my leg, and now I have like maybe 70% of my leg, my thigh, I can feel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that may be permanent, but I don't know yet. They said it. You got to give it up to at least a year, maybe longer, to see if it'll regenerate itself.
Did you ever watch the Kids in the Hall?
Oh yeah,
comedy.
yeah.
There was the one about the guy who doesn't have any feeling in his leg, and he keeps like sticking the fork in it. Like,
yeah. I tell people that's the funny thing, because that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, I can't feel my leg. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, give me that knife. I'll just stab it. You want?
Yeah. That'd be amazing if you could do that.
Yeah.
We toured with this band, this great band from Norway when we were in Europe called Luke Star, which you should check out because they're not around anymore, but they put out 2 just they might have had 3 records, but the second 2 are just unbelievable.
Okay.
Really good. Luke Star. But the lead singer, when he was a kid, had some kind of cancer and he lost an eye. So he had a glass eye. So every time you were at a party with him, you would give him your bottle and he would clink it on his eye and then take the cap off with his mouth.
That's wild.
It was a great party trick.
Absolutely.
Like you're like ding ding. Great band though. They were really fantastic. He went on and did some like weird disco music afterwards too. But everyone I've ever met from Norway are just the best people. Love them. I really feel like in some ways that I was shafted by not being born in Scandinavia. I think I really would have preferred being there. They sound like they have such a nice life over there. I've never been, but they're like, the government like is kind to this, to the, women get like a whole year off of like, when they have a baby, and it just sounds like a lovely place.
Yeah,
and everyone
sure.
I've met from there are just super nice and laid back. But I digress.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's get back into music here. We got a little distracted there. I told you basically my life story. Sorry.
I did the same thing to you. I have a way of doing that because I'm when you get me going,
It's great. You're a great interviewer though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's a good conversation. It makes you feel more comfortable and everything, you know. It's good getting to know each other a little bit. It's crazy. I'm a little blown away right now that you
I
live
know.
like
We're not that far.
so close. But
I used
okay.
to buy weed from that place that was kind of near you. Like there was like a little shop, the sticker weed.
Yeah. That was one of my
Yeah.
friends was one of the guys there, and
I used to do the sticker weed.
yeah, I did too.
Yeah. Anywho,
um, let's see. What do I
we
got
should just leave
for
in
you?
the whole thing. This is more interesting. Like,
Yeah,
like,
no, I'll
leave-
just honestly,
Yeah.
I'll leave it in, and I'll just
Yeah.
take out street names and everything. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I live at 38.
And your social is
Yeah. I'm gonna get off on a tangent again, but like, there's a funny. I listen to Howard Stern, and they have one of the people who's on the show. Their mom got catfished by someone who's saying their Oh, I'm not gonna remember the name now. A celebrity. So she's getting catfished by a celebrity, but like they listen to these phone calls that she's having with this guy, and he's like, "Oh, I just want to get you to know you better. What was the first concert you went to?" You know, and oh, that's so interesting. And what's your mom's maiden name? You know, like, but
that's funny.
what was your first pet's name? I got to know everything about you. Anyway,
That's too funny. Okay, so what of all your experiences in Europe and you know, around the US, wherever you've traveled to, is there anything that you're like, that was the best meal I've ever had?
the best meal I ever had. Just on. Can I judge just by tour? Because
Yeah, that's fine.
I lived in New York City for 20 years. I had some
Okay.
pretty amazing meals.
Yeah.
I mean, they have nothing to do with being in a band. You know, it's tough. You didn't get a lot of great meals because a lot of times you would just show up to people's house. A lot of times, I mean, especially the Christie Front Drive days, you'd show up to someone's house and someone would make chili, you know, or like we didn't have a lot of money. Like Taco Bell was like back then when you got the dollar burritos, we'd hit Taco Bell because we'd literally only make enough money to like be able to spend like $20 a day, you know, especially during the beginning. So we'd hit Taco Bell a lot, or we'd go to the store and buy, you know, stuff for spaghetti or something you can serve a lot of. Oh yes, I take that back because in Germany, of course it's in Europe again. In Germany, there's this place called Gleis 22, and I believe it's in Munster. Before you play, they sit you down. They turn the venue, or I guess it might be tables already. There might be a restaurant in there, but they have these really nice tables with candles, and they serve like this 5 course vegan meal, but like really like top of the line. Like the stuff was like, this is a puree of you know, it was ridiculous. And that was probably shout out to Gleis 22 out there. I mean, that was one of the best shows I think we ever played, because that was the one that turned into a dance party too.
Okay.
That was a crazy enough night where our drummer Jeremy, I had to like kind of reel him in because he was starting to eat a tree outside. I don't know. I remember that he was on top of the van eating leaves off the tree. It was like it was weirdest. That I'm so surprised no one died on that tour.
He was just fucked up.
Yeah, no, because literally we would show up to these venues and you'd go into the, you know, they'd have dressing rooms and they'd open up this refrigerator. There'd literally be like 200 beers in there, and they're like, "This is your beer." And so you like, by the time you're like became like 2 a.m, you probably had like 20 beers. I mean, like it's insanity. Slowly throughout the day, but you're just fucked up, you know, like it was like it's blur, and like you'd wake up the next day like, oh my god, what the fuck happened? Which was hard because I'd have to recover. It was not, you know, a lot of times I would lose my voice on some of like, because we were playing, they would not let you take a night off. You're playing every night, you know, so not a good way to do it, you know, like drinking yourself to death every night.
Yeah, for sure.
But that Gleis, that was definitely, now that I think about it, that was the best by far.
Did you guys have any like pre-show rituals or any superstitions before you got on stage?
No, I never. No, I just kind of being really nervous, like especially in the beginning. I'm now to a point finally where I can get up in front of people and it doesn't really bother me at all. If I'm playing, I don't like to speak, but if I'm playing music, I'm fine now. I'm comfortable, but there was a lot of anxiety early on. Like it's, you know, unless you're like, you show up and the crowd's really already into it already, like you seem excited to see you, then those feelings go away. But you play some shows where people are just staring at you and you're like, fuck, this is really uncomfortable. Some strange bar with 5 people in it, or that happened a lot. We played in people's living rooms a lot, you show up and where are we playing? They're like, right here, asshole, bring your stuff in.
Did you guys do a lot of mostly DIY stuff, or?
We did. I mean, Christie Front Drive was all usually just booked by us.
Yeah.
So back then there was a Maximum Rock and Roll, which was really cool. Do you know Maximum Rock and Roll? So it's kind of it was an East Bay punk magazine or zine, but it really it was a lot of pages. People read it, and that's how you would find out about Husker Du and every band that I really especially punk band that I discovered was either through Maximum Rock and Roll, or it was just a great zine. Huge. It's more like a newspaper. I'm not a newspaper, but it had a lot of pages. And what was I talking about? Every time I do this, cut that out. So they put out a publication called Book Your Own Fucking Life. And so they put out some ads and who's doing shows in what town. And so they would list them all in this really great zine, and you would just go through it, and we'd go hey, we're at Christie Front Drive, we'll send you a 12-inch. We had 12 inches at that first 12-inch at the time. We'll send you one. We'd love to play in Arizona. That's how we met Jimmy Eat World, actually.
Okay.
Jim either got the message, or I talked to Jim, or I don't remember. There was Jeff there. There was a few people there that were running things, and we actually played a show where they all showed up to, and because they got the EP and were like, oh, we like the EP a lot. And then even that night's when they're like, hey, do you guys want to do split 7-inch? And I was like, sure. No one asked us to do that. So I was like, yeah, that's great. But so we booked all those trips. We never had a booking agent, Christie Front Drive.
Okay.
I haven't had a lot of booking agent experience, actually, besides the European tour, and the Antarctica tours were kind of booked for us too. But
it's just crazy, for me to try and wrap my head around the time frame of when you guys were touring and everything with all these bands that are so influential to me and so all of my friends, you know what I mean? And obviously you as well, but it's just to the dropping of oh yeah, Jim Adkins, and this is how we did this and that, and Mineral and all that. It's just so
I'm
crazy.
not trying to name drop. That's
no,
just,
absolutely
that was
not.
It. Yeah. No,
yeah, absolutely not.
It's not and David Duchovny was in the band. No, but
yeah.
Johnny Depp followed us for a while.
For sure, yeah. That was
no, but
but
it was because there wasn't. Here's the thing, and I've thought about this too with lately. There's way more bands now.
Oh,
it's just insanity how many bands, and of every kind. I mean, to stand out now. I mean, we really love the Suburban Eyes stuff, and I'm really proud of it. I don't think anyone's gonna really notice it. There's just too much shit out there. The people that kind of know what I do already, or heard stuff I've done, will like it, and and that's fine, because I really just like songwriting. I've gotten to the point now where it's almost the songwriting is what I'm obsessed with. And that was the great thing about Suburban Eyes is one thing I want to touch upon about the way we did it. Back in the day, Christie Front Drive, we would get, oh, you got some studio time, you have so many hours, go in there. You basically have to do it live, the Christie Front Drives. Besides, I mean, the stereo record we had a little more time with, and it was at a nicer studio, but still, we weren't in there the Rolling Stones for 2 months, or the Beastie Boys. We tried this track out, and we tried this little, and it didn't work, and that's what we were we have these 6 songs, we have to have them tight, we need to knock them out, and then maybe we'll have some time to play with them a little bit. But with Suburban Eyes, we have all the time in the world to do whatever we want and get whatever sounds, so now we're not limited to a time constraint, which has been great, because there's some vocals I'm I just don't like the way that that lyric is sitting, and so a couple months later I change it, because we're still editing everything, because the one thing that we have going for us, which to choose, is Jeremy Gomez. He mixes, he has a whole thing, so he can we can send him the tracks, and he'll just send us back these mixes from they sound like studio mixes, and then we can make decisions and oh, what would sound great there? A violin would sound great there, or we have cello on the record. That's a real cello player. That's actually John paid this. I think he knew her, but she's in the Kansas City orchestra. and gave her like $100 to come in and do that.
That's
the
awesome.
cello part on the voices, but voices change or whatever it's. I forget what it's called. Yeah. But so it was nice. It was just nice having the time we had. It was almost like gave us a little bit of advantage that some bands, like Jimmy Eat World can go into a studio now and just take as much time as they want. I've never had that luxury, and now with recording at home, it kind of like evens the playing field in a little way of being able to like, I can actually treat these songs almost like art now, or like where are we going to take it? And when, because that's one thing we really try to do with the Suburban Eyes record was like, just create something that was really like interesting to listen to, like if you do smoke weed, it's going to sound good, like there's put in some like ear candy.
Confirmed.
And yeah. And it's and something that's, and I had enough time to work with the lyrics too, where they're very much poetry in a lot of ways, but they're all very personal, like from personal experiences and dreams and things that have happened to me. And then I kind of roll them into almost more of a poetry kind of vibe,
Okay.
Or sometimes, and one thing I've been doing, I've done on the Suburban Eyes record, which I haven't done before. I've been kind of being influenced by other people's lyrics and using a line just kind of as a nod, like, like I really like that lyric. I'm not like stealing it, but like I would kind of do it in my own way, but you can kind of tell like, hey, that's kind of like that. It's kind of a nod to the Afghan Whigs or something,
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You in Christie Front Drive, you guys had a reunion show in 2014, correct?
Yeah, we did a few reunion shows.
Okay. What was that like? After
good.
taking so long off.
It was nice. Especially the first one was part of this. They had I don't know if they still do it. It was called Denver Fest, and we were like one of the headliners of that because it was nice. It was one of the biggest shows we ever played because not every time we play, the masses come out. We played up in Canada at this fest, and not many people actually showed up to see us at one of our reunion shows, which was kind of weird. It was like weird to be like have a reunion show and they're like you're all excited and like there's like 20 people here. But there was other bands. What happened was there was other bands that people wanted to see more.
Okay.
Because there was just 5,000 shows that night.
Yeah.
And we weren't the hot band. But it was fun. The first one was amazing, the Denver Fest one, and there's videos on YouTube of it. And we had a blast. And then as they went on, it was like, all right, this is kind of getting tiresome, like I want to move on and do something different,
Right. Yeah. With that mentality of like coming together for Suburban Eyes, was it easy to like kind of just leave the old projects for each of you by the wayside to like not really, because definitely that stuff's going to carry over because that's who you guys are as far as like writing and writing styles. And yes, you change over time, but some of that stuff can still bleed through. Was it easy for you guys to kind of just like leave that by the wayside and not focus on that to make this what it is now?
Yeah, no, there was no thought. I mean, we really went into this project. It just felt like a completely new band. Like pretty much everything. I don't think we ever brought up like, oh, we should like do, I mean, we're like, like I said, for 50 years old, like I'm so far past the Christie Front Drive stuff now.
Yeah.
That like, and I'm listening to completely different types of music now. So I'm not where I was mentally. And it kind of reminds Bob Dylan said something once that someone, during his interview, they asked like, do you remember writing those songs or like, like what, and he's like, I don't even know who that person is anymore, who wrote those songs. And it's kind of like, I totally kind of understood that when he said that, because I don't remember what I was like when I was writing those. But I do have a style of playing. And I think that, you can hear.
Yes.
Because I kind of taught myself how to play guitar and I kind of stopped. I didn't keep like searching to become a better and better guitar player, but I found a place where I'm really comfortable and where I can make the sounds I want to make. But I'm also limited, chord wise, I could definitely explore more, which we probably will, because we really have no plans on stopping the Suburban Eyes thing. We already have an EP.
Yeah. Another one?
Yeah. We have we have 4 or 5 songs we're working on right now
that's awesome.
I think are just getting better and better, I just want to write. I just want one song, when I'm dying, like that was just I want someone just to say that was a great fucking song, you know, like I'm still searching for that a little bit.
Do you guys have plans for like playing live ever?
We are talking about not no touring. I'm not, and that's funny because this is about touring. I really don't want to tour anymore.
Hmm.
But if we did some, special kind of one-offs or even a couple shows, we've talked about possibly South by Southwest, like because we'll have a lot of friends down there and you can kind of see a bunch of people at one point. It's easy to get a show.
Yeah.
Because they'll get thrown on. Actually, James is he's the one that would book the Antarctica tours. He like runs all of South by Southwest now, which is weird. Which is a very weird fact to me because when someone told me that, I was like, James runs that? Like, I just remember him like coming around on on the tour with us, and he actually ended up playing with some of the Antarctica guys afterwards too. But super nice guy. But
Nice.
we're thinking about doing that, and even just like getting together and just getting in a room because we've never played in a room together. We have practiced.
Wait, oh, really?
No, I mean not with Suburban Eyes. No.
Okay.
This was all done. Everything that I recorded was done in this room.
Okay.
John would go into a studio and do the drums because that's a little more difficult to do at
Mhm.
home, unless you have the right setup. And then Jeremy was the mix master. We would send him the tracks and he would add stuff and then mix it, and then we would decide what to do. But the whole, like, getting back to the only thing we thought about, we weren't thinking about Mineral or Boys Life or Christie Front Drive. We just were trying to make the best songs we possibly could,
Absolutely.
with what we had. And that was always the goal. And we had a lot of fun doing it. It's been a really fun project. Like, we really get along really well. And, we have like funny little, text chains, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's nice to connect with them again,
I love that.
because like I said, I'm kind of a recluse now. If I could stay home all day, and just do nothing, I'm happy as a clam.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I don't really go to shows much either. I made an exception for Sunny Day Real Estate when they came through. I'm making an exception next week for the Get Up Kids. I'm very much the same way, but it's cool that you're still doing it, like you're still doing the creativeness, and the record is great. I love it. As you can see, I mean, I listened to it and I bought it immediately.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great record, and you
We
guys
spent
are
a
all
lot of time
amazing.
on it. It means a lot because we spent a lot of time on it, and we really put a lot. Like it was definitely a blood, sweat, and tears project where we've been working on that thing for years.
Right.
Years.
Yeah,
I think Uncomplicated Lives was recorded that was right around with the pandemic time. That's when we recorded those tracks.
Yeah.
Before we got them mixed by Peter. But that was a long time ago. And the fact that I can't believe this album's even out, like it blows. It's been such a long process, but at the same time, like I said, it's been nice because it's given us the time to like, hey, I don't like, this is not working. That song, and we're before, with Christie Front Drive, you're like, it didn't work. You're like, fuck it. Can't change it now.
Yeah. We're on a budget. We can't
Yeah,
we can't do this. Yeah.
No, seriously, that's what it was
Yeah,
like.
for sure. I did notice, like, on your guys' YouTube, two of the songs you released as videos 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
that was one of my questions, was like, how long ago did you guys start the project?
Yeah, that was right.
It was right around COVID.
Yeah, I think I was home. That was during the shutdown.
Okay.
So it started then. And yeah, that's how long we've been doing it. But there was some early stuff. It didn't really get started until the three of us kind of like it kind of went down to the three of us.
Mhm.
We were working on some other stuff, but it wasn't gelling. And then like Chris didn't really have the time to like add, and so that's when we kind of went to the three. But
Yeah.
it's been a long time, and the fact that we got it out, I feel is a huge it's a big. I'm pretty proud that I finished this record.
Absolutely.
Actually,
It's great.
I
Like I said.
it was touch and go.
Yeah.
If we were ever gonna get it out. We were originally just gonna do everything ourselves, that's why we have those videos we just self-released, and
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because
Yeah.
they're kind of trippy the way you guys did everything, with the videos bleeding into each other of like playing live and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Which is very cool. So I kind of skimmed over this one, jumped over this question, but have you ever been in like any kind of altercation or fight on tour?
No. I'm not a fighter. I've never. I hit a kid once when I was in first grade, and I felt horrible about it, and I never really did it again. I'm not a. I'm more of like a. and this might have you and I. Are you a road rage person? Because
No.
I'm a total. Now I've never gotten out and gotten a fight, but I'm like
Yeah.
the person I'm like, fuck you, man.
Well,
But,
yeah, occasionally,
Yeah.
my biggest thing is like if I stop and I let you turn and you don't wave, if you don't give me the wave, you're dead to me. I don't know you, but I hate you.
So one of the ways I go to work. So sometimes I either just go straight down because it's to Denver.
Mhm.
That's where my work is, and then or I can take the 33. And there's one time I got in this cutoff fight with this guy, and this fucker chased me down to 33, and I was going 90. Like it was like during the morning too, like swerving out of it was insane. But the adrenaline rush was amazing. But but I lost him because what I did, I got off of the 198.
Okay.
And because I can go that way too, and
Yeah.
I kind of like ditched. I think he was gonna beat my ass though, so I'm glad I got away.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really a good fighter, so like I'll start shit, and then I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm gonna get my ass kicked. I can't fight. But
That's funny, man.
yeah, but yeah, no, I've never. There was like obviously verbal, like with bands like when you're stuck in a van
Yeah.
with like 5 people for like a month, like there's gonna be like, no, fuck you. I that type of stuff, but that's you can't avoid that. I can't imagine any band has gone out and not had a strange moment,
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
just get
Yeah.
sick of looking at your fucking face.
Yeah. No, I feel that for sure. Well, Eric, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me.
Can't believe we're like basically neighbors. That blows.
I know,
That's
that's
still
crazy.
blowing my mind right now. But I really appreciate you coming on. If there's anything that you want to promote, social medias, anything like that, now's the time.
Oh, social media. I have nothing.
Okay.
I don't like. Yeah, I'm not. There's. I don't know. We're working. There's a Suburban Eyes EP in the making, so we're doing that right now. So, we're gonna see how that goes. We're gonna try to actually even mix it ourselves because Jeremy, anyways, because we had this guy Peter, Cadis do it, who was like known for doing like the national and like,
Mhm.
and he just made the song sound amazing. So we're gonna try our best to see if what we can do ourselves. But
Yeah. For
we
sure.
just sent him the final tracks and let him because there's a lot to be said with mixing. There's a lot to be said for having really good equipment and having like the circuitry and everything. It really does make a difference of how good it sounds when you put it out in the world. There's no doubt.
Mhm.
And I'm a bit of an audiophile. We were like a little, next time we'll probably go a little softer. It's really loud, the record, I think.
Okay.
And it made it hard to transfer it to vinyl a little bit. We had to do some frequency cuts, but
Yeah.
I won't get into that. But yeah, but I really appreciate you having me. This was a fun conversation.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to come back on, I'd love to have you. Maybe we could do it in person next time, and even I don't know.
We do that, get in a room at the table.
Yeah.
Like
I
a-
mean,
like a
you can kind of
Charlie Rose kind
This
of.
is just my
feel.
basement. Yeah, it's turned into a little studio. When this table's not here, my drums are here. So
I would like do more like this, like a dark. And we're gonna have a table like the Charlie. Remember the old Charlie Rose show?
Yeah,
We could sit there
yeah.
and have a really, really in depth
oh yeah.
conversation. Really get to know each other.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around, watching the episode. Be sure to give Suburban Eyes' new record a listen. Give them a follow. Support them in any way. Pick up the record. Keep your eyes and ears out for that new EP whenever it may drop. Everything they have as far as social media and all that stuff, I'll have it down below in the description. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Awesome.
Bye, bitch.